how about that sermon? Can we start there? I feel like that sermon is interesting because Trump goes to this church with his whole family, and bear in mind, guys, these are not church-going people. The Trumps are not church-going people. They are scoundrels cheating with their kids, cancer charities. Trump never been faithful. Dude, he's one of the bigger adulterers on the planet, and just degenerately so. But so that I think they're at an Episcopalian church, and the bishop is a woman, and she makes a plea, right, to Donald Trump. She's got the president there, and she makes a plea based on the word of Jesus of like, please be compassionate. Like, not all immigrants are criminals, and LGBTQ people are God's children. And so please show some compassion for those people that like may be very, very afraid. And you can see the people in the Trump party just, they're like filled with vitriol about it. And it's really interesting to see how when you take American Christians, like the ones in our government, and you actually confront them, I shouldn't say all of them, but when you take most of the right-wing American Christians in the United States and you actually confront them with the actual words and beliefs, the values of Jesus Christ, they're offended by it. They're heavily, heavily offended by the actual values of Jesus. Because Jesus, he was flipping the tables of the wealthy. He's like, every immigrant is, your brother. Every like homeless people need to be saved and loved. He's just the opposite of American right-wing Christians. But like, let's watch their expressions. The shit is so telling.
Let me make one final plea.
I got to say, this is ballsy too, because she added this at the end, but imagine how gutsy it is. Okay. She's got the president in her church. She's like, delivering a sermon, and she takes advantage of that time to share the gospel and to make a plea to the president for compassion and empathy in the name of Jesus.
Let me make one final plea, Mr. President. Millions have put their trust in you. And as you told the nation yesterday, you have felt the providential hand of a loving God. In the name of our God, I ask you to have mercy upon the people in our country who are scared now. There are gay, lesbian, and transgender children in Democratic, Republican, and independent families, some who fear for their lives. And the people who pick our crops and clean our office buildings, who labor in poultry farms and meat packing plants, who wash the dishes after we eat in restaurants and work the night shifts in hospitals, they may not be citizens or have the proper documentation, but the vast majority of immigrants are not criminals. They pay taxes and are good neighbors. They are faithful members of our churches and mosques, synagogues, wadara, and temples.
Now, you notice Laura over here? She's like practically laughing back there. He is visibly torqued. Like, oh my God.
I ask you to have mercy, Mr. President, on those in our communities whose children fear that their parents will be taken away, and that you help those who are fleeing war zones and persecution in their own lands to find compassion and welcome here. Our God teaches us that we are to be merciful to the stranger, for we were all once strangers in this land. May God grant us the strength and courage to honor the dignity of every human being, to speak the truth to one another in love, and walk humbly with each other and our God for the good of all people in this nation and the world. Amen.
Dude, that's so ballsy. Dude, that's so ballsy. Look at him though. Like, Melania's like practically gonna laugh. Dude, they just think this shit is funny. They do. They're like, I mean, dude, it's really wild to just see their attitude. Jesus would burn all these fucking people in hell. I mean, most of the right-wing American Christians, if the Bible is true, and if God and Jesus exist, all the American Christians are going to burn in hell. They are. They worship money. They worship power. They wield power. They sit in judgment of all manner of God's creatures. You know what I mean? God's children. Because, I mean, at the end of the day, like, the Bible talks about, like, God's views, but it leaves the only judgment is up to him. And everybody else is supposed to love thy neighbor, and they're supposed to not be violent. They're supposed to be pacifists. They're supposed to be pious. They're supposed to let the world be taken by Satan, and they just simply obey their scriptures until he comes and rescues them. There's nothing in the Bible about them like wielding power and deciding who among God's kids, God's children have value and don't have value and all that shit. There's none of that. That is all like created by evangelical arrogance and the arrogance that comes with people with vast amounts of wealth. And no way, dude. Should have thrown some holy water on them and they'd probably start hissing. Oh my God. Yeah. Oh, if Jesus were born again today, American evangelicals would crucify him. Yeah. I mean, I think if Jesus were around today, dude, they'd fucking deport him, right? They would. They'd put him in a work camp. The thing that's crazy about this is how a religious figure asking them to be compassionate and empathetic made them made them angry. You could see, especially Laura Trump and JD, they were just sort of like spitting, you know? They were, Melania is practically laughing. JD was so irritated. He was. But again, though, none of these people give a shit about God. And if they do, it's in an oblique sort of them believing that because they're wealthy and powerful, that means they're blessed. And they look at God and crosses as a means of like getting away with shit. That's really what the right-wing power Christians, especially the ones in our government, are all about. They put a cross on. Which is supposed to let you know that they're like the good guys, and then they engage in nasty shit. But Vance's face through this, he's like so irritated. I love how he looks over at his wife, but she's not even looking at him. Called out, dude. But Laura Trump back here, she was like trying to not laugh the whole time. Dude, they are so fucking scoundrelly.
Mr. President, what did you think of the sermon? What did you think of the sermon? What did you think of the sermon?
What did you think? Did you like it? Did you find it exciting? Not too exciting, was it? I didn't think it was a good service, no. Thank you very much.
Thank you, press. Thank you, press.
They can do much better.
I didn't think it was a good service. They can do much better. Dude, isn't that crazy that this is the evangelicals guy? And he goes to church, and at the end of church, he's basically saying, they asked me to be compassionate and empathetic with like people that are scared. And I didn't like that. I mean, think about this. Forget about all the politics of shit, because being gay shouldn't be a political thing. It's only a political thing because one political party has decided to be anti-gay and they've made that their thing. But just in general, if you're president and you find out that, 30% of the country is afraid, they're scared. They're scared that you're going to harm them. You would think that you, as a president, your first order of business would be to assure everybody in the country that I'm not going to harm you. I'm not here to harm you. I'm here to help you. I'm here to make sure you're taken care of. Like, it's my job to represent you and fight for you and make sure you're taken care of. But the way Donald Trump presidents is he's not fighting for trans people. He's fighting against them. He's not fighting for immigrant workers that pay taxes. He's fighting against them. He's not really even fighting for Democrats. He's not. I mean, they want to maybe not give California disaster aid because they want to try and blackmail it. Like, he's only fighting for the redneck motherfuckers, the hillbillies that voted for him, and the white people, the white Christian people that voted for him. And anybody who asks him to be compassionate and empathetic, he's like, I ain't fucking fighting for you. I say we call him out everywhere, bro. Every time this motherfucker's in public, call him out. Call his family out. You go to the bakery, you get a speech. I will give you this scone, but not until I tell you you need to be compassionate and empathetic. And you need to reassure your fellow American citizens you're not going to harm them. Enjoy your fucking scone and tell that fucking rich bitch you hang out with to quit doing Nazi fucking salutes behind the presidential seal. Thank you very much. Here, enjoy your scone. Have a nice day. Don't fucking choke on it. Kidding. Choke on it, motherfucker. Dude, that shit is wild, though. It is. It is wild that they look at, like, being asked to be compassionate as bad, dude. And they call it a woke sermon. Compassion is now woke, guys. The words of Jesus. Be compassionate, be empathetic, treat the stranger like your family. And there are direct Bible quotes about immigrants. You shall also love the stranger, for you were strangers in the land of Egypt. The alien who resides with you shall be to you as the citizen among you. You shall love the alien as yourself, for you were aliens in the land of Egypt. I mean, dude, it's like all over this. And I champion the cause of a stranger. Like, bro, if you're not helpful to immigrants and the poor, like, you ain't a Christian. Dude, there's so many. Love does no wrong to a neighbor. Extend hospitality to strangers. I mean, it's all over this shit. Again, I don't believe in the Bible. I mean, I think it's a great set of stories. There's some lovely parables in there and obviously some great messages. I don't believe the Bible is a work of divinity. I don't believe it's a divine work. I mean, it is just a compendium of, thousands of years of oral storytelling that was passed along and compiled and put together over several hundred years. But dude, it's wild how the Christians are so anti. And look at this. This is BS wokeness propaganda. And this is how they brainwash your kids, is what they say. Like, holy shit, bro. Trump tweeted about the bishop. Look at this shit, bro. Trump weighs in to give the bishop shit after that service. He says, the so-called bishop who spoke at the national prayer service on Tuesday morning was a radical left, hardline Trump hater. Dude, all she said was, please show mercy. Please show some compassion and empathy for the scared people. And he says she's a radical left, hardline Trump hater. She brought her church into the world of politics in a very ungracious way. What a dick, bro. Fuck you, Trumpy. She was nasty in tone and not compelling or smart. She failed to mention the large number of illegal migrants that came into her country and killed people. That's not a large number. It's like 5 people over multiple years. Many were deposited from jails and mental institutions. That's a lie. It is a giant crime wave, not accurate, lie, taking place in the U.S. Apart from her inappropriate statements, the service was a very boring and uninspiring one. She is not very good at her job. She and the church owe the public an apology. What a dick. Dude, what a fucking dick, bro. All of this, though, is bullshit. All she did was say, you're somebody who says he believes in God, so please take God's words into account, Jesus's words of being compassionate and having empathy for those that are scared. And Trump does this. Why? Because Trump's a fucking candy ass, boss. Because he's too weak to have empathy and compassion and still be a man. Because he's a fucking clown. Wait, there he is. You, Trumpy. I don't know if you saw this, but basically Donald Trump has declared that we're all women, guys. He passed an executive order that makes every single citizen in America a woman, a female by definition. It's wild. We are now all women because they're so dumb. So they decided to use fetal personhood. Those of you who don't know what fetal personhood is part of the right-wing religious zealotry, is to try and declare you a person the minute the egg is fertilized. So once there's a fetus, they want you to be a person. Right? Although mothers can't get aid for you, they don't want you to have health care guaranteed. There's no advantages of personhood except them forcing you to have the baby. So they've used language of fetal personhood. But right here in Section D, they're trying to define men and women. And again, though, this is an executive order. This isn't like a binding whatever law. But look what they say here. They say female means a person belonging at conception to the sex that produces the large reproductive cell. And male means a person belonging at conception to the sex that produces the small reproductive cell. But here's the problem, guys. Nobody is born on letter E. Nobody is. Everybody is born D, bro. We are all born female. And then what ends up happening is somewhere around, 9 weeks to 18 weeks, if you become male, you start leaning in the male direction. But every single human being is female at conception. So, dude, they're just not smart because they're not taking any scientific definition. They're trying to wrangle the definitions from their Bible. But literally, this right here says that we're all female, according to their definition. There's not a single human being in America that was born E, that was E at conception. None of us. Not a one. Not a one, bro. I mean, I don't even understand what they think this is going to do here. I mean, all it really affects is, I guess, government spaces, government agencies. I mean, theoretically, they could try to withhold federal funds to people and try to force this enforcement of this among the states, which is dude, that's pretty weird. The states' rights people, when it comes to gender, they don't believe in states' rights. When it comes to forcing you to give birth, or, telling you who you can marry, they want states' rights, shoving a Bible up your kid's ass. But all of this is just nonsensical. It's going to affect federal employees, but I don't really see how this is going to have any sort of large-scale effect. I mean, the government can't tell you what gender you are.